Hey y'all, hey, welcome to the Cheating Vegan Scarecrow. Over my brief course of my YouTube journey, I've had questions about what is a cheating vegan scarecrow. Today, I'm going to discuss the scarecrow part. And if you stick with me, I'm going to start with a small, quick story, and then I'll come back to you later. Doris, aka D to her family and friends, had always loved autumn with its vibrant leaves and crisp air. But now, as she gazed out the window at the hay-filled scarecrow propped up in the neighbor's field, she felt an unexpected kinship to it. She wondered why that tattered figure, meant to be sturdy and unshaken in the fields, seemed to mirror how she felt inside. Since her diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, Dee's world had changed in ways she could have never expected. Each morning, she woke unsure of what parts of her would cooperate that day. Some days, her legs felt heavy, barely carrying her from room to room. Other days, the fatigue wrapped around her like a heavy blanket, weighing down her every movement and leaving her arms limp. She could no longer predict what her own body might do, and that uncertainty gnawed at her. The scarecrow's patched limbs and drooping posture felt like a reflection of her own battered sense of self. It was designed to appear resilient, ready to stand guard over fields no matter the weather, but Dee knew the truth. Beneath the exterior, there was nothing but straw. Just like her, it was held together by threads, balanced awkwardly on sticks. One strong gust of wind and it might collapse. She too felt that fragility. A flare-up could take away her strength, her control, her independence, leaving her tattered and helpless. And like a scarecrow, she sometimes felt abandoned in her struggle. Friends and family would offer words of encouragement, but few could truly understand the situation and the isolation, the fear, the way chronic illness turned even the simplest task into the hurdles. There were days when she felt invisible, standing there in plain sight, but unseen. Yet, as she stared at that scarecrow, something shifted in her. She realized it wasn't just a symbol of weakness. After all, there it stood, season after season, holding its place despite the storms that battered it. Maybe she, too, could find strength in simply staying. Maybe resilience didn't have to look like unbreakable steel. Maybe it could look like patching up the broken parts and facing each day with whatever strength she could muster. Dee breathed in the crisp autumn air, and for that first time in a while, she felt a glimmer of peace. Yes, she was like that scarecrow, fragile, uncertain, often held together by threads. But like that scarecrow, she'd keep standing. Thank y'all for sticking with me. I just want to have a little discussion. Let's just have a conversation about the correlation between someone living with a chronic illness such as multiple sclerosis and a scarecrow that has isolation out in the field. If we can just personalize a scarecrow. Think of Michael Jackson in The Wiz out there on the pole just wanting to get a brain. And we can delve into the physical, emotional, and psychological comparisons between the two. First, let's talk about the physical fragileness and instability of this said person, i.e. me, living with a chronic illness such as multiple sclerosis. They often experience physical instabilities such as muscle weakness, poor coordination, and fatigue. That's something that I struggle with on an ongoing basis. I'm interested to see how, because I actually have back issues and I'm about to go through surgery for a spinal fusion, and that's going to be quite an experience on my body, having to heal from that, and it's going to give me more difficulties over the next couple of months, so y'all stay with me on that. But all these things like the poor coordination and muscle weakness and fatigue, it could make you feel unreliable with symptoms that flare up out of nowhere, and it just makes you feel vulnerable. Over the course of it all, it's just draining. But let's look at a scarecrow. A scarecrow is often built of straw, loosely held together with sticks and twine, making it inherently fragile. It stands awkwardly, vulnerable to the elements, and any gust of wind and harsh weather can make it collapse. That doesn't seem like somebody with, well, it sounds like me. I know there's other people that struggle with chronic illnesses and they can relate to that as well. Let's talk about just the appearance of strength. That's something that we all deal with from one aspect or another. But someone living with MS often presents a strong front, appearing composed on the outside to family and friends, associates, wherever, while they're silently struggling with their symptoms. There is a resilience that is actually a facade that we give off to make it seem like we're okay, but we're secretly hiding fatigue and pain that we carry on the inside. A scarecrow stands tall, intended to ward off birds and protect the crops, creating an image of authority and strength. But its strength is an illusion. It's just an empty shell made to look imposing while inside is weak and hollow. Let's talk about isolation and loneliness. Somebody living with a chronic illness, I know sometimes that we tend to isolate ourselves from our family and friends because we're dealing with so many ailments that makes it hard for us to be social. And a lot of times we'll cancel plans to be with others because we don't want to have to deal with. I know one of the biggest things for me when I first was diagnosed, one of the things that caused me to try to find out what was wrong because I was incontinent. And the biggest thing for me was, where's the bathroom going to be? Because I have to go through the bathroom so often. And before I was diagnosed, all of my doctors, be it my primary care, my gynecologist, they all were giving me different kind of medications. Said, well, this should help. Here, take this. And until I actually was diagnosed with MS, and I was given a team of doctors, and my urologist already knew what people with MS are dealing with. So he finally concocted a combination of different things for me to do to help me with the bathroom issue. So now it's not an issue. I can go and have fun with my friends and family, and that's not an issue. But in the beginning, I felt so lonely. There's so many. I was known as the person, like, you can invite Yolanda to something, but she's probably going to cancel at the last minute. I was known as that person whenever there was employee functions, parties, and things like that. They were all, of course, I was invited because I worked there. But at the last minute, I would always cancel. Then they never knew why, but I was just always known as that person that was not going to show up. And aside from the bathroom issues, I was tired. By the time I got home from work, I wasn't trying to go anywhere else because I'm exhausted. So that was always an issue, and it caused me to be isolated a lot. I would be at home. My husband would even say, "Why don't you want to go do this? Why don't you want to do that?" But he didn't fully understand why it was such a struggle. And I won't give TMI, but it was a struggle. The Scarecrow, like it stands tall and but it stands alone in a vast empty field, often for months at a time, disconnected from others. You think about Michael Jackson and The Wiz. I hope you have seen The Wiz, because it didn't give the praise that it should have gotten at the time it came out, but that is something that you should see. Michael Jackson did an awesome job. All the characters did, but he did an awesome job trying to convince us of being a scarecrow. And I think of that oftentimes. That's why that's a theme song in my intro. If you didn't realize, that is Michael Jackson's song, "You Can't Win," while he's being ridiculed by the crows out in the field while he's on the stand. But him being out in the field, it symbolizes solitude and the feeling of being out of place, separated from connection and companionship. And it wasn't until the Scarecrow met with Dorothy that he was able to meet the other characters and make friends, because he was all alone stuck on the pole and he couldn't get down. So I can relate to that. Another thing that people that suffer from chronic illness suffer with is having to rely on external forces for stability. Medical treatments, therapies, medication, mobility aids, and assistance from caregivers. We rely on that to function day to day. Without these supports, life would be far more challenging. I couldn't imagine. It wasn't until I was filling out a form recently and they were asking me about how I handle my day-to-day activities. And I realized that if it weren't for my family, I couldn't get anything done. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to do it. And now that I'm walking with I call it a stick, but it's not a cane, but it's my stabilizer, as I call it. It's a stick. It's probably one of those walking sticks. I forgot what they're called. Anyway, it's a stick for, hiking. A hiking pole. I like those because they're tall. Not that I'm tall, but it just makes me feel more stable. The cane that I was giving when I was doing physical therapy, they suggested I walk with a cane, but it makes me feel like it's down too low. So I like walking with that stick, and it makes me feel more stable. And I also have things like security bars in my bathroom. I can't imagine being able to get out of the tub or taking a shower, because taking a shower is exhausting. So I rely on a lot of different things to live day by day. And a Scarecrow, they also rely on stakes and ropes and just to remain upright. It doesn't have strength within itself. It's only able to stand because of the structure propping it up. Much like someone with chronic illness, it depends on various supports to stay functional. That's me. What about fluctuating conditions and environmental influences? A person living with MS experiences good days and bad days based on their condition, the weather, and other triggers. That's a symptom that I have. I'm intolerant to heat. If I get too hot, my body just gives up. It stops wanting to move. Over the years, we have a lot of functions that we have to do out in the summer, and like lots of barbecues and festivals and things like that. But I can do it for a while, but now that I've learned to get like cooling vests, and I have things that go around my neck, keep my head cool, they help. However, if I get too hot, because I live in the South, so it gets hot, and my legs stop working. So I'm not much help when it's time to prepare food and put up tables and chairs. You can just forget. They put me out of the count. They already know. Yolanda's not going to help with that. So a person with a chronic illness, their health can deteriorate or improve temporarily, creating a cycle of hope and despair that's exhausting to navigate, because you just never know. I am not so much affected by the cold. However, the heat wreaks havoc on my body. And we all know that a scarecrow's condition fluctuates with the elements. Exposure to wind, rain, and sun wears it down over time, leading to a weathered, worn appearance. Like someone with MS, the stability can change from day to day depending on all these external forces. What about the unseen internal struggles? Someone with a chronic illness or someone with MS often have invisible illnesses, meaning many of the symptoms aren't outwardly visible. People may assume that someone with MS is fine, not understanding the pain, fatigue, and neurological issues that they face. Oftentimes people ask, well, Yolanda, they find out that I have MS, and they say, well, you look so good, or you don't seem like you're sick. And they don't know what's on the inside. They don't see my struggles. Like I said, times when I make it through the day, but by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I sleep all the time. One of my saddest moments in life is that when I'm home with my family, I'm asleep. I can't fellowship with them as I would like to. I can't cook dinner for them and we talk about the day's events. It comes from time to time. Over time, we can have moments, but just like most people, they are open. Of course, everybody gets tired, but my life is spent sleeping most of the time. I feel like sometimes I'm not there for my children like I would like to be, and that makes me sad. And I don't want them to remember me like that. So that is why. That's one of the reasons I do YouTube. I hope that they remember the way Mama was before she got sick. I remember those times when Mama used to do this and that. I want them to have good memories. And I'm such a big proponent of making memories while we can make memories. Because that's important. Because that's what I have for me with my mom. She's not here anymore, but I carry on those sweet memories that we did make while she was here. But if you want to try to humanize a scarecrow, their hollow interior and weak construction are hidden beneath its clothing and outward appearance. So you would never know that they're made of straw because of the outer appearance that they portray. So they can seem like strong protectors of the field, but inside there's no real substance. People with a chronic illness, despite their challenges, they find purpose, whether in relationships, work, or creativity. Their lives are meaningful and valuable even if they are physically limited. So that's why it's so important to me to try to stay active and doing something. A lot of times people think when they find out that you have a chronic illness such as multiple sclerosis, that they take you out of the count. You're not good for anything. They need to baby you and protect you, or you're not valuable anymore. So that's why it's so important to stay active in certain realms of your life. Because we can still do stuff. And we may do it slower than we ever did before. Because that's something that I deal with, where it's like there's somebody always like there. I wish you could see me right now. But, they're trying to help you along the way because you're slower than them. But that doesn't mean I can't get it done. Just be patient with me. I might be slower, but I can still get it done. It may not be like I used to do it, but I can still do something. That's just like the scarecrow. Although it's fragile, it still has a purpose. It still got to be out there on that field and on that pole, warding off those birds from messing with those crops. Hopefully it works and does what it's supposed to do, because you don't want to have to be out there fanning those birds away from that corn. Now, there is a fear that comes with living with a chronic illness. It often is a constant fear of collapse. That is something that I carry with me every day because MS is so unpredictable. So you just never know. I remember when I had my first relapse that I can remember. I think it was my biggest one. I think it was when my mother, she passed away, and I remember being in the bathroom. It wasn't like right when she passed away. It was probably months later. I had been her caretaker, and she was on hospice in the house with me. And I remember one evening, it seems like I was home alone, or maybe I was here with the boys, I don't know, but I think I was home alone. I don't know where they went. Anyway, I was in the bathroom, and I was getting up from the toilet, and my legs gave out. It's so funny now that I think about it in hindsight, but I think I was wiping. And the next thing I remember, I was falling over on the floor. My legs just stopped. And a lot of times whenever you have something that affects you with MS, because I have relapse and remitting multiple sclerosis, and if you rest, it'll improve your condition. And I remember crawling with my elbows out of the bathroom all the way into the living room to the couch. And my husband, at one point, we lived separately because we both had situations that required us to live separately, and he wasn't here. And all I could remember to do was to call my brother and say, hey, something's wrong. Why I didn't call 911, I guess I didn't think it was that important. All I knew was my legs stopped working. And so I called my brother, he came over. And I think over time I just rested and it improved. But that just came out of nowhere. And I've had situations like that, and it'll probably kind of be too much information, but that's one that stands out to me, that it can hit you in any moment. And I've had other situations that have done that as well. But it's scary to think anytime you heard stories of other people that have MS where something that happens to them so quickly out of nowhere, and theirs doesn't come back like that. Because like my double vision, I've had that before, and that stayed with me probably at least a month or so, where I couldn't see straight. So there's a fear that comes with that. What's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how devastating it's going to be. So there's a fear with that. And the Scarecrow is exposed to the elements, knowing that a severe storm or a strong gust of wind can topple it at any moment. And there it remains vulnerable, waiting and hoping to withstand whatever nature throws its way. And that's what I have to do on a daily basis, because you never know, your condition could suddenly change and worsen, impacting your independence. And that's one of the biggest things, not being able to take care of yourself. You got to learn how to be humble having MS. However, we can be a symbol of strength, because despite our struggles, people with chronic illnesses, they persevere, adapting and finding ways to live meaningfully. Their endurance is a quiet form of strength that often goes unrecognized. But we have to learn how to, like I said, do stuff in a different way. But you can still get it done. Much like a scarecrow is staying alone and weathered. It symbolizes resilience. It always stays in place, season after season, battered but unyielding, just like a person who continues to live with a chronic illness. This comparison here reflects the deep, often hidden layers of strength, vulnerability, and endurance shared by a person living with a chronic illness and a lone scarecrow. Each stands against the forces that wears them down, finding a sense of purpose and a resilience amid the challenges. Thank you if you made it this far on this video. Thank you for watching. If you take the time to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel, I would greatly appreciate it.